Hello my hojos. You guys said that you liked more chill, laid-back videos, and since I needed a quick break, here we have another one. Today, we're just going to be talking about different manga that I've been reading this month. And looking back on my channel, I tend to do one of these once a year in April. So you know what? This was absolutely intentional. Real quick, just so you guys know, I posted on my community tab that I am going to be doing a panel this year on April 12th at C2E2 called What is Shoujo? One of my goals this year was to do a panel at a con, and lucky enough, I got accepted for a panel at C2E2. The reason I took a break this month was just so I could work on this presentation, work on this panel. I've never done a public speaking event like this before, so I really wanted to make it worth it for you guys to come see. I hope I can see some of you hojos there and that you will have fun if you do come. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like I can record my panel for people who won't be there because technically Popverse, who is running this con, owns my panel. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do a stream of this panel sometime within the end of April. We'll see. Anyway, back to the manga that I read this month. It's a pretty all over the place lineup with a lot of new releases and first volumes. So hopefully I won't be spoiling too much for anyone and you guys can just maybe try out some new series that I recommend. But as always, I will have everything sectioned off in the timeline. So if you don't want to get spoiled, if you don't want to even know anything about a series, then just kind of skip around in the timestamps. I won't blame you. Firstly, we're going to start off with series that I read digitally this month. This does include one that has a physical release, but I did read it digitally. First off though, we're going to start with a digital only release. This is called Killing Line from Kodansha. It was volume 1 and volume 2. It's an ongoing dark comedy josei series that runs in the magazine Be-Love, which is the magazine of my favorite series ever, Chihaya Furu. This series is also from the same mangaka as a manga that I unfortunately like very much called Searching for My Perfect Brother. That manga is very messed up. This manga is pretty messed up too, so you know what you're getting into. The series follows a down-on-her-luck high schooler named Mako, whose life only gets worse when her sugar daddy gets picked off by a hired hitman. However, it turns out that the assassin is actually the owner of a movie theater that Mako had promised to go on a date with a day prior. So to keep herself from getting killed too, Mako pretends to be in love with this man whose name she doesn't even remember to escape his grasp. So when I first saw that this manga was coming out in Be-Love, I was initially very excited for this because I really like the mangaka and the premise sounded very interesting. The unfortunate thing though is that volume 1, while it was fun, I found it very strangely paced. The panels would kind of jump all over the place in time and I couldn't really keep track of the time that was passing or what was really happening in what order. And the same thing kept happening in volume 2 as well, where the pace got only stranger. And then I just kind of started to realize I don't know what this manga is trying to do or where it's going. The other thing is, I'm not really sure about the characters. I do really like Mako a lot. I think she's very funny, but she is often put in very compromising positions, or she's shown in compromising positions a lot. One thing that happens twice in the first 2 volumes is that she pees her pants, and it's shown that she pees her pants, and while I understand that it would happen because she's terrified and there are terrifying things happening, I just don't see it being necessary to show it twice. And also, it just kind of felt humiliating. And the other character, N, who is the hired hitman, is a yandere, and we all know I love yanderes, but at the moment, I don't really get his motives or him as a character. This manga does revolve around movies a lot and like themes of movies or movie genres, and that is a very interesting spin on like crime assassin dramas. So with that knowledge, I could see N being a character who just kind of views his life as a movie because he pretty much thinks everything about his encounter with Mako is just like Roman holiday. But at the same time, I just don't think he's very fleshed out as a character. He doesn't really make sense as a character so far. He's kind of just there to be a wrench in everything that Mako does and making sure that she doesn't escape and she's stuck in this situation. Like I said though, the movie setting is very interesting. They introduce in volume 2 another character who likes a different type of movie. So this guy loves musicals, and I think it'd be really fun if this manga series is just a bunch of hired hitmen who all like different movie genres, and they all are just like very quirky and do assassin things with different movie genres. With the first 2 volumes, I'm not completely sold on this series. I'm still kind of warming up to it. I'm not really sure if I like it as much as the other manga from this author. And the thing that I hope for most in this series going forward is that Mako gets a bit more to do other than have Stockholm Syndrome and just constantly get thwarted on her plans to escape. I think if you like comedy series, if you like crime, if you like assassins, if you just like yanderes, you'll probably enjoy this one just for what it is, but I do think it needs a little bit more time to kind of flesh itself out. I think I remember hearing that the mangaka was only planning for like 1 or 2 volumes for this one. So I usually give it around 3 volumes because that's when they know that they can continue the story. Next up for my digital only releases that I read, this one actually just got announced by Bookwalker for simulpub release. It's called A Peach Offering for the Imperial Court, and there's only 5 chapters out now, so this isn't like a full volume or anything. This is just, I read chapters 1 through 5. I was very excited to see that this one had gotten announced by Bookwalker because this is actually a very, very new shoujo series that's running in the magazine Asuka. I mostly just had my eyes on it because this is the same author as Lord Hades' Ruthless Marriage, which is coming out from Yen Press and just wrapped up with the 3rd volume, but I still haven't gotten my hands on it because nowhere has it in stock. So I might just end up having to buy volume 3 of that series online. This manga though is about an immortal peach princess named Zare. She is from the Holy Realm where peaches bloom that have divine chi in them that only the immortal peach princesses may eat. Since Zare is one of these peach princesses, she must marry the emperor's son on his coming of age ceremony so he can receive her divine blessing, bear his child, and make him next in line to become the emperor. The white prince, Zijing, is shorter than Zare though, and because of this difference, they end up getting off on the wrong foot. Surprisingly, these first 5 chapters felt like a full 2 volumes. Nothing seemed rushed, but it was already so full in the lore and the characters already that it was just a meal in 5 chapters. A lot of the character backstories and incoming drama is revealed in these 5 chapters, and it really engages you with the story. These chapters are kind of long, so maybe that's why it felt so full, but I could not stop reading after chapter 1. Zare is just an amazingly fleshed out character who is so desperate to make this whole situation work for her because of her anxiety and her dark past creeping up on her. And while Zijing has less of a compelling story, he's basically just a mama's boy, I still find his character very enjoyable, and I like his dynamic with Zare a lot. Even though they do get off on the wrong foot, and it's not like he's super nice to her right away or anything, they do realize that they misunderstood each other, they didn't understand what the other meant about certain things, and once they come around to each other, they have this great chemistry that honestly I feel a lot of people will compare this one to My Happy Marriage because of that. Although this one's a lot quicker in the romance department. One of the things that a lot of people are gonna love about this series though is the art is just absolutely stunning. It's so detailed, it's just absolutely gorgeous. This is the kind of manga art that you come to shoujo for. And if you have read Lord Hades' Ruthless Marriage, you will know that this mangaka is just an incredible artist. Overall, I am very surprised at how much I enjoyed these first 5 chapters of this one. It's a great start to this Chinese fantasy drama. There is so much potential with the world building, and I just highly recommend you guys check this one out as well. I'm pretty sure just the first chapter is free on Bookwalker, but they have 5 other chapters out right now, and you can go ahead and read them. The last one that I read digitally is the one that is also available physically. I just didn't know if I would like it, so I wanted to check it out in digital first. This one is Lullaby of the Dawn, and I'm completely caught up on what's out right now, which means I've read volume 1 through 5. This is a BL manga being released from Tokyopop that comes from the magazine From Red. This one is about a young boy named Elva who's got pure white hair and stained black limbs, who fights creatures off in the ocean as an island's Kanagi. Despite giving his life to protect the nearby villages, Kanagi are seen as ill omens, and few people would dare to go near him. That is until Alto, a young village boy, meets Elva and is enraptured by him. And from then on, he decides to dedicate his entire life to take care of him. Since I am all caught up on this one, and this is a fantasy series that has a lot of twists and big plot points, I'm going to try and keep this review as minimal as possible. I love this one from maybe volumes 1 through 3, maybe even through 4. I can't remember where the big plot twist is. The fantasy elements were incredible. The aesthetics were immaculate. I love the eerie vibes because of the nighttime. However, when one big plot element gets revealed, I actually just found it very lackluster, and it dulled my excitement and enjoyment of the series just a little bit. I just don't think it was a great introduction for the fantasy element of this series. I don't think it completely ruined my enjoyment. I still want to continue reading this one because there's so many other things going on in this manga that I do really enjoy still. One of those being, I love the characters. The characters are all so good, and I love their dynamics together. Alto and Elva's relationship is just so incredibly sweet and heartbreaking at the same time. I think of the two, Elva is the one that I like more as a character. I just find him more compelling. I mean, I don't know what it says about me, but I tend to always like the character that is more insecure and unsure of themselves. And I always love a romance where, you know, the counterpart is there to assuage their doubts. There's a lot of lovable side characters in this too. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but all the different Kanagi, I really love all their different characters and all the ways that they cope with the position that they have been put in. And just the lore of like how they're raised on this island is really interesting too. I really just find the stuff that is contained to this island so much more interesting than the bigger picture of this manga. One thing you won't hear me complaining about though is that the art is stunning. The way the mangaka draws faces, I don't know how to explain it, but it is so satisfying. And I also really like the design choices that were made for this series, whether that be in the clothes or the use of the stained black ink on the limbs of the Kanagi. I love that contrast. And also, I think I am just a sucker for nighttime aesthetics and things. I think the contrast of the dark sky for manga with, you know, the white of the characters, it's a great contrast. I love it so much. Despite my disappointment with the plot twist for this one, I do still think it's a very interesting manga. I do still want to keep reading it because I love the characters, and I do think there is some good intrigue still that hasn't been revealed, and I would like to know more about what is going on this island. I haven't heard many people talk about Lullaby of the Dawn outside of BL fans, and the reason why I started reading this one is because I see a lot of BL fans post about it, and I saw the art, and I was like, wow, that is stunning. So I really do suggest people who maybe don't read BL check this one out because it is very good, and it's just a really good fantasy romance for anyone who likes that. Alright, so now we're gonna go on to series that I read physically, and you know what? You can too, with today's sponsor, Walt's Comic Shop.
Pip pip cheerio! Are you looking for some English language manga in the EU?
Then look no further than Walt's Comic Shop. Walt's has thousands of manga currently in stock, with an inventory that's growing daily. They offer low shipping prices for any EU country, with bulletproof packaging and speedy customer support. When you enter the code Colleen's Manga Rex at checkout, you'll get free shipping on your first order of €40. You can get series like The Failure at God School and many more at waltzcomicshop.com, your #1 source for English language manga in Europe. Now let's get back to the video. First of the physical releases is The Failure at God School. This is a new series from Yen Press that I have been wanting to read for so long now, and it's finally out. Hell yeah. This one is an ongoing shoujo series from the magazine Hanato Yume. You might know it for Fruits Basket or Yona of the Dawn. But what I think a lot of people now would find notable is that the author of this one is the same author as Apothecary Diaries. This manga is about an average high school girl named Nagi who is currently mourning the loss of her grandmother, who was a himiko that protected the shrine in her city. And now, with the loss of her grandmother, Nagi has to find a new himiko who can take over. Nagi would just take over this herself, but she wasn't born with divine powers, and her shut-in brother, who won't leave the house. But one day, all of that changes when she finds herself enrolled at God School, at the behest of a powerful himiko named Tsukuyomi. For anyone who loves the fantasy genre or supernatural stuff, I think you need to check this one out because this first volume was so much fun. You can definitely tell that this is a Hanato Yume series because of the genre that it's in, but also because it just feels very Hanato Yume. Plus, this one is also super reminiscent of Gaku and Alice, which means people who would also like My Hero Academia would probably like this one too. I mean, Nagi goes to school with a bunch of people with different powers. Some of them have telepathy, some of them have teleportation, one guy has X-ray vision. I don't know how divine or godly X-ray vision really is, but it's in this series. My biggest gripe with Volume 1 is that they do try to squeeze a lot in these first 5 chapters. Like, one of the things that it does is just completely breezes past any of Nagi's, like, first week of school. I think most series would, kind of stay in that first day or two and get her acquainted with school and the new people, but it just completely breezes past it. It's like, no, this is not important. She has been at this school for a month now. She has someone who tutors her. She has a friend. And oh yeah, she's also an outcast and a failure at school because she can't pass anything because she doesn't have her powers. We get no good introduction of her new friend group until maybe like chapter 4. And we actually get more info and a new character introduced in chapter 2 before we even get to know the people who were supposedly taking care of her at school in the meantime. Mostly, I just find it kind of strange that the proper side characters, because very clearly the side characters that we have been introduced to are going to be like her main friend group, we just don't get proper introductions for. Also, while this one was advertised by Yen Press as a romance, I think people who are looking for romance in this, and especially if they're like, oh, it's like Apothecary Diaries, it's gonna be like Jinshi and Mao Mao, I don't think you're gonna get that here. The male lead in this one, Tsukuyomi, barely shows up, and when he does, it's really not any sort of romantic moment or anything. So if this does ever become romance between Nagi and Tsukuyomi, it's going to be very secondary. I don't think it's going to be a main part of the story at all, and it probably won't be for a while either. Now, I think I forgot to mention that Yen Press actually sent me this one as a free copy, so thank you so much to Yen Press. This is one I've been wanting to read for so long. Overall, this one is just going to be such a fun read. I can already tell that this is just right up my alley for the perfect mix of fantasy, friendship, and shoujo that I love. So definitely check out The Failure at God School, and thank you Yen Press for sending me this copy. Now, another new shoujo release from Shoujo Beat came out, and this one is A Star Brighter Than the Sun. This is a manga that comes from the magazine Betsuma, which is also where like Kimi ni Todoke comes from, so you can kind of get the vibe of what this manga is going to be. But also, it is from the same mangaka, Kazune Kawahara, who created High School Debut and My Love Story. We have not gotten a new Kazune Kawahara manga in a while, so I am so excited that we got this series. Since she was a kid, Sae has always been a bit larger than the rest, and because of this, she's always been very self-conscious about her body. Her childhood friend Koki used to be shorter than her as well before they drifted apart in middle school, and now he's become tall, handsome, and popular. Yet, after all those changes, Sae still sees him as the sweet, kind crush that she had back in elementary school. Now, for those who don't know, I love Kazune Kawahara. High School Debut is like one of my favorite childhood manga. I found the main character in High School Debut to be so relatable to me, and Kazune Kawahara has just always had this great ability at making believable high school romances with like really good drama too. She just has this way at pulling at your heartstrings in like all different areas. So already in volume 1, I feel so deeply for Sae in this series. I too was a rather large kid myself in elementary school, just not tall wise. For those who don't know, I am 5'6", which is not tall in America, but it is tall in Japan, because Sae is actually 5'6" in this series. Unlike Sae though, I did lean into the more being strong and big because I wanted to be cool as a kid, but I still understand the feeling of making yourself feel smaller than you are because you feel like you take up too much space. As a character, I wouldn't really say that Sae is shy. She has friends, she talks to people, but she kind of just lets herself fade in the background. And she also has a habit of trying to take care of other people, probably because she sees herself as more of like the grown-up because she is taller, even though she is the same age as everyone else. Now, we do get quite a bit about Sae, but we don't know too much about Koki still as a character. I think it's either very obvious that he already has feelings for Sae, or it's very obvious that he just really cares for her as a friend. Either way, the two are super cute together. I really love the two of them together. Koki is just so sweet to Sae, and then, you know, vice versa as well. And also, we have a girl group in this series. I love a shoujo that gives us a group of 3 girls together and they're all besties. And one of them kind of has a bowl cut, or at the very least I've seen in promotional images later on she has a bowl cut. So I think she's probably going to be one of my favorite characters. For anyone who doesn't know, this one actually just got announced for an anime adaptation, so I am so excited to continue reading this one and also checking out the anime when it comes out, because we have not gotten a new Kazune Kawahara anime in a long time either. I think this is actually going to be her first series completely done by herself in both story and art that we've gotten as an anime. Either way, very excited for this manga. I loved this first volume. And for my last physical release, it's another new physical release from Kodansha this time. It's called I Want to Love You Till Your Dying Day. And every time I see this title, it just makes me want to sing the song from Moulin Rouge. This is a currently ongoing Yuri series from the magazine Comic Yuri Hime. This is a manga about a young girl named Sheena who lives at an orphanage which raises kids to wield magic on a war against demons. However, Sheena can't feel any pride about the killing that goes on around her. One night after her roommate gets killed in combat, her new roommate named Mimi shows up. And Mimi has rumors swirling around her that she is an immortal killing machine, which makes Sheena uncomfortable. So I checked this one out because I saw the tags that were associated with this manga, and I knew I was in for a wild ride because they were anything from dismemberment to tragedy to Yuri to magic, and that was all just in this first volume. I honestly was reading it, and while I've never watched Madoka before, I was just going, yeah, this one's for Madoka fans. But I will say still, I was kind of underwhelmed with this first volume. Not to say it was bad, but I think if anything, I just kind of had my expectations up too high. This whole first volume was more focused on the school aspect, and they didn't really get into what was going on in this world, or what the demons are, or the magic and where it comes from. And while I don't think that they have to like outright tell me anything, I just feel like it was a little too focused, it was a little too insular on the school setting. Sheena's character is pretty laid out bare, but Mimi isn't super fleshed out yet. I don't really understand her character, but she is very interesting as a foil to Sheena, who just doesn't want to be around killing at all. And because I don't have much to say about the characters either, I feel like a lot happened in this first volume, but also not too much happened at the same time, so it was just a little underwhelming for what I was hoping for. Nonetheless, I will say the premise is still very interesting for this. I'm definitely gonna give it at least 2 more volumes, and obviously I am never going to say no to a magical girl Yuri series. I'm not sure where this manga is gonna go. There's like 9 volumes out in Japan, so clearly we are in for a ride with this one, and I just hope this manga gets a bit more direction in volume 2 so I can be a bit more excited for what is going on. Once again, there was an anime that just got announced for this one. It looked so good. The animation for the trailer was beautiful. And some people were saying it was pre-animated and it might not actually be what the animation in the actual series looks like, but either way, it looked very good and I can't wait for more Yuri anime too. I saw a lot of people excited when this one got announced for being licensed by Kodansha, and either way, even if I wasn't super pulled in with this first volume, I'm still very excited to continue reading it, and I'm so glad I picked it up. So those are the 6 series that I have read this month that I wanted to tell you guys about. I've actually read a lot more this month, a surprising amount, because I was in a huge slump the last time we talked about reading. But many of the other ones that I've been reading are actually from my 16 TBR manga challenge that I didn't finish last year because of that slump that I mentioned. And this year, I'm fingers crossed, I'm gonna do it again this year. But since those are the other ones I read, I wanna leave those impressions to the end of the year when I finish that whole 16 TBR challenge. Just as a teaser though, I will give you guys a little bit of what I have read. So I finished Neighborhood Story by Ayazawa. I started Fushigi Yugi. This is gonna be my second time reading it, but the first time I'm rereading it in a long time. So I don't remember a lot about that one. And I also read the first volume of Pet Shop of Horrors. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, as always. And also, thank you for putting up with my constantly changing schedule. I wanted to make this year more stable, more consistent, but already I had to take a break because of the panel, which, reasonable as it is, I do still wish I could maybe multitask a little better. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and maybe found a manga that you wanted to try out yourself as well. Thank you, as always, my hojos, for watching. Welcome to any new hojos. Richi Hayafuru, and I'll see you guys in the next video.